The winning blueprint presents.
Draft Zone.
Welcome. You're in the draft zone. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. This is the 2013 NFL first round breakdown. Breakdown. Breaking these first round picks down. And so what I'm going to do today is break down the first round picks that were made in the 2013 NFL draft. And look, I thought that the first round was very aggressive. Teams went up and got the guys that they coveted the most. And whether they had to trade back to get them and get better value or trade up to get them, teams did whatever it took to get their guys. A lot of moving around. A couple of surprises. We'll talk about all of those here in this breakdown. So let's get right to it. It's going to be very quick, fast-paced. I'm not going to spend a lot of time analyzing the picks or over-analyzing them. I'll give you my thoughts on the pick when they were made, and I'll just move on. And so we'll start with number one. Eric Fisher, tackle out of Central Michigan, goes to the Kansas City Chiefs at 1. And look, there were speculations made that this was going to be the pick. For the longest time, I'm talking about 2 months, the name that rolled off everyone's tongue, Luke Jokel, tackle out of Texas A&M. Well, right, I'd say about maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks before the draft, Eric Fisher, like that thoroughbred horse, off the pace, comes out of nowhere. And he's coming down home stretch. And Jokel's out in front. And here he comes, inside track. Here comes Eric Fisher, and he beats him out for that first overall selection. And it was the upside is what won him that first overall selection to the Chiefs. Look, Jokel is a finished product. He's ready to go right now. You plug him in at left or right tackle, and he'll be solid for you right now. But for most teams, they look at Jokel, and he's a double. Teams look at Fisher, and they say, hey, this guy's a double, but he could be a home run in the next 3 years. See, Jokel is a double right now, and he could probably get to a triple, but I don't think he can get to a home run. People see the potential for Fisher to become a home run. That's what enamored the Chiefs. That's why he's the number 1 overall selection. Love the pick. Think it's a smart move by the Chiefs. You go to number 2 to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and for the longest time, and they fooled me. And I had a buddy of mine tell me, hey, 3 tackles can go in the first 3 picks in this draft. I said, no way, get out of here, because the Jacksonville Jaguars aren't taking a tackle. I don't think they're in a position to do that. And so I looked at their roster and I said, Eugene Monroe has played really well at the left tackle position. Then you look at the right side and you say, they could use a right tackle. Why not? But David Caldwell had already told me, hey, we narrowed it down to 2 players, which makes sense. You're the number 2 pick. If your first guy is gone off the board, you take the second guy. It's simple. That's what all the teams do in the top 5. They make a list, and wherever you are, if you're the 5th pick, you make a list of 5 guys. And look, one of those guys is going to be there at 5 when you select. And that's what the Jacksonville Jaguars did it too. They made a list of 2 guys. One of those 2, if not both of them, are going to be there at 2. We'll select the one that we have highest on our board, or we'll select the one that's left. And for them, that guy turned out to be Luke Jokel, tackle out of Texas A&M. Now, I expected it to be Geno Smith or Deion Jordan. I didn't expect it to be a tackle. But as the draft got nearer and nearer, as it drew closer, I realized that guy could be one of these tackles. And maybe it was Eric Fisher that was higher on their board. Maybe it was Luke Jokel. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they were going to take a tackle. And they took the one that was left, Luke Jokel, tackle out of Texas A&M, and they moved on. So you look at the 3rd overall selection. Here we go with our first big move of the draft. Miami Dolphins come up to 3 with the Oakland Raiders, and everyone's thinking, oh, okay, it's for the tackle. It's for Lane Johnson, the tackle out of Oklahoma. Makes sense. If they don't take him here, Eagles could easily take him at 4, and they could miss out. So it makes sense. Dolphins don't have a left tackle, or they could have a left tackle if they like Jonathan Martin, and I think they like Jonathan Martin more on the right side than they do the left side, but okay, whatever. They don't have a tackle is what I'm trying to say. Jake Long is gone. They need a left tackle. Makes sense. And everyone's expecting the commissioner to come up, announce the trade, and then after he's done, he's supposed to say, with the 3rd overall selection in the 2013 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Lane Johnson, tackle out of Oklahoma. That's what everyone thought, including myself, was going to be said. But we were wrong. What the commissioner did say was, with the 3rd overall selection in the 2013 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Deion Jordan, defensive end out of Oregon. And that sent shockwaves through the draft because everyone was surprised. Whoa was the reaction, including mine. Now, not whoa because the move wasn't smart and it wasn't a great move. It wasn't a ballsy move because it was all of the above. Whoa because we thought the tackle was coming off the board. So the Dolphins realized we can't allow this guy to get to 4 to the Eagles because Chip Kelly is going to pounce on him. And Chip Kelly was salivating at 4. After the Jags took a tackle at 2, the Raiders, first of all, were smiling because they wanted out of that 3rd overall selection. And with 2 tackles coming off the board, that 3rd pick became a hot spot. Now, we all assumed it was a hot spot for that last tackle. We were wrong. It was a hot spot for Deion Jordan. And either way, 3 and 4 were going to be hot spots in this draft. But I think the Eagles wanted the pick of the litter. They wanted every option available to them on the table. They wanted Deion Jordan, Lane Johnson available, and the ability to trade out of the pick if they wanted to. And after that 2nd tackle went and after Deion Jordan was gone, they may have had offers to trade out of that pick for Lane Johnson. But if you're the Eagles, hey, I need a tackle. I'm not sure what I'm getting out of Todd Herremans. He's getting up there in age. He's over 30 years old, coming off of an injury-riddled 2012 campaign. I might need a new right tackle. As a matter of fact, I do. I can kick Herremans inside and plug this guy, Lane Johnson, into my scheme. I want as many plays as I can get on the offensive line. I want my offensive linemen to be as athletic as I can get them. We know Jason Peters might be the most athletic offensive lineman in the league. Why not add Lane Johnson to the mix? He might be just as, if not more, athletic than Jason Peters. And so you've got probably the 2 most athletic tackles in the league now, and Lane Johnson and Jason Peters. Philadelphia Eagles take a tackle at 4, Lane Johnson out of Oklahoma. So you look at number 5 and you say, okay, well, that sucks for the Detroit Lions because they need a tackle in the worst way. So you say, okay, well, tackle is no longer on the board for the Lions at 5. What are your next options? Okay, you could go cornerback or defensive end. They elected to go defensive end. Ezekiel Ziggy Ansah. Look, this guy has immense potential out of BYU. Now, the ceiling is up here. You can't even see it. Ceiling is up here. Sky's the limit. Problem is the floor is all the way down here. And again, you can't see it because the floor could be absolutely terrible pick bust in this draft because this guy is so raw. You don't know what you're getting. Does the athleticism translate from college to the NFL? Because this guy has all the raw skills you're looking for. What are you getting out of him? This is a boom or bust pick. This is the prototypical boom or bust pick. I mean, when you look up boom or bust, you're talking about this kind of selection. Because Ziggy Ansah can be an absolute home run. I'm talking about double-digit sack getter for the next 12 years in the league. Or he could be simply a guy that you draft in the top 5 and look back on and say, man, we made a critical mistake there. So we will see. But he's a big slab of clay in Ziggy Ansah, and the Detroit Lions are going to have to do their best to mold this guy into the defensive end that they want him to be, which is a playmaking, havoc-wreaking defensive end. We'll see what happens, but all the physical gifts and tools are at their disposal with Ezekiel Ziggy Ansah, defensive end out of BYU. You look at number 6, and you think to yourself, okay, Browns, they could use a number of things. And I thought this was going to be a hot spot at 6, but once the tackles all came off the board, 6 was no longer a hot spot pick. This was no longer a relevant pick. The Browns needed to make a selection here. And so I looked at the board and I said, okay, what do the Browns need? Okay, they need a corner. DeMarcus D. Milner sitting right there. What are you going to do? This one told me the direction of the NFL right now. This pick solidified it for me. The Browns go and draft defensive end / outside linebacker Kiki Mingo, Barkevious Kiki Mingo out of LSU. And so keep in mind, the Browns got Paul Kruger from the Baltimore Ravens in free agency to get after the quarterback. They got Quentin Groves from the Arizona Cardinals in free agency to get after the quarterback. So you already got two guys that can get after the quarterback. And what do? They went and got another guy that can get after the quarterback in Barkevious Kiki Mingo. And so what this pick solidified for me is that, look, the NFL is moving away from guys that can stop receivers from catching the football first and foremost. Look, you need guys that can stop the receivers from catching the football. You need good corners. You definitely do. I'm not saying that that's being diminished. What I am saying, though, is that they're putting more of an importance on getting to the quarterback. And the Dolphins came up to 3 to get Deion Jordan, a guy that can get after the quarterback. The Browns had a selection to make, and they had a choice to make. Do you pair up Joe Hayden with DeMarcus D. Milner, cornerback out of Alabama, or do you go get a guy that can get after the quarterback and leave Joe Hayden to fend for himself? And that's what the Browns did. They said, look, we'll get you a running mate later. Right now, our biggest priority is getting to the quarterback. And so that showed me that the league is more worried about getting to the quarterback and not worried as much about getting guys to stop pass catchers from catching the football, because it makes sense. If you can't get the football to these guys because pressure is on you, you've done your job. Because if pressure isn't being applied, doesn't matter how good your corner is, that receiver is going to get open eventually. If the quarterback has 4 seconds to throw the football, trust me, that receiver is going to get open. He's going to shake free. The play is going to break down. It's going to turn into schoolyard, backyard football, and that receiver is going to get open. So the Browns went with Barkevious Kiki Mingo at 6. You look at 7, Arizona Cardinals. Jonathan Cooper, guard out of North Carolina. Made sense. Made plenty of sense because Levi Brown's coming back from injury, so he's back at the left tackle position. You kick Bobby Massey over to the right tackle position. That leaves one glaring hole on your offensive line at right guard. You plug in Jonathan Cooper, whether it's left or right guard, and you've got yourself a mauler. And look, he's so athletic, he can get to the third, the second level. And I think if you are the Arizona Cardinals, you take Jonathan Cooper and you put him at left guard, right next to Levi Brown, and you try to form a power side of your line where you can run the football, open up gaping holes, and get this running game off the ground. We know the Cardinals have struggled to run the football. You now have Rashard Mendenhall back there. You couple him up with Ryan Williams, who you hope can stay healthy. Maybe you've got a running attack that can put pressure on defenses, give Carson Palmer some time to get the football to Larry Fitzgerald and company. That could be a really good pick for the Arizona Cardinals. I love the pick. I thought it was a move that needed to be made. There's no tackles on the board. You go to the next best thing. You get a guard. You look at 8, and here's a huge trade in this draft. Okay, the Bills are sitting there at 8, and everyone's thinking, hey, these guys need a receiver. And some people might have been thinking Geno Smith. I didn't think that was even an option here at 8. You got to go with value here, whether it's a defensive end or it's a cornerback or it's, a receiver. And the Jets ran their mouth, and they messed up. The Jets wanted Tavon Austin, but they ran their mouth. In typical Jets fashion, Rex Ryan and that whole group ran their mouth. And they put out flyers there, hey, we want Tavon Austin. Hey, we want Tavon Austin. And so the St. Louis Rams said, no, you don't. We've been working on this for months. You're not going to stop us from getting our guy. And so the Rams, again, much like the Dolphins, have assets. 2 first-round picks. They've got some picks later on. Look, if I got to give up my second to get this guy, I will do it because I got 2 first-rounders. So the Rams said, look, I'm fine. They traded up to Buffalo at 8. Buffalo goes back to 16, and we'll talk about the significance of that trade in a second. But the Rams come up and they get their guy. They said, look, we're getting a playmaker to replace Danny Amendola on our offense, and his name is Tavon Austin, the receiver out of West Virginia. What a move by the Rams to get your guy. You got to get your guy. The Dolphins got their guy at 3. The Rams get their guy at 8 in Tavon Austin. And I think, to me, best value in the draft because this guy gives you so many different dimensions that he adds to your football team. And then, not to mention that I think he's the most explosive player in this draft, hands down, bar none. There's no one that can compare to him at the receiver position or at any other position for that matter, Tavon Austin to me is a bona fide playmaker in this league. And you can call him what you want. You can call him a running back, a receiver. I call him a playmaker. And that's exactly what the St. Louis Rams got at 8. What a big move for the Rams coming up in front of the Jets, who would have taken Tavon Austin had the Bills not taken him themselves, would have taken him at 9. They come swoop right in front of him and get their guy in Tavon Austin at 8. So then you look at the Jets. Okay, well, you ran your mouth, and so Tavon Austin isn't there at 9. You need help on the defense. You need help on the offense. What are you going to do? Okay, so Rex Ryan is a defensive-minded guy. You know he wants to get after the quarterback. He wants to create turnovers. He wants to do everything that it takes to make this football team relevant again. And the only way he knows how to do that is defensively. And so you lose Revis, what do you need? And I told people this was going to happen. If the Jets, in fact, traded him, they were going to need to replace Revis with another guy that could come in and play some defense out wide. Now, is DeMarcus D. Milliner replacing Revis? No. You can't replace a guy like Darrelle Revis. There's no such thing. But what DeMarcus D. Milliner can do is come in and be a very good corner across from Antonio Cromartie. And that's what the Jets are expecting him to do. That's what he should be looking to do. And that's what the Jets did when they selected him at 9. So you go to number 10. And now you're sitting there. It's the Tennessee Titans. And they got lucky. The way this thing was supposed to unfold, both guards, 3 tackles off the board at 10. And so they were supposed to be sitting there twiddling their thumbs. And if you're the Tennessee Titans, if both guards, all tackles, and Ziggy Ansah is gone, not to mention Deion Jordan as well, what do you do at 10? So I was thinking a guy like D. Milliner might have been available to them, a cornerback, maybe a defensive end. No. They're sitting there, and the guy they wanted all along, Chance Warmack, guard out of Alabama, sitting right there at 10. And that's the guy they wanted from day one. From the start of this whole process, the Tennessee Titans said, hey, we want to make our run game dominant again. And the guy that can help us do that, a mauler in the middle of this line to go across from the other mauler that we just got in free agency, is Chance Warmack. And he was sitting right there at 10. Titans didn't hesitate. They went and got their guy at 10, Chance Warmack, guard out of Alabama. They plug him in. He's going to make a difference on this offensive line. Not only is he going to create a nice, solid pocket for Jake Locker to work from, but now Chris Johnson is going to become a big threat in this league once again because this offensive line is shaping up into one of the better offensive lines in all of the National Football League. So you look at the 11th pick and the San Diego Chargers. A lot of people had the Chargers trading out of this pick to try and go up and get a tackle. And we knew they needed help on this offensive line anywhere they could get it. Their guards, their tackle position was a mess last year, horrendous. And so offensive line had to be the pick. I really didn't like the value here at 11. When your back is pressed up against the corner and the gun is to your head, and the gun was to the Chargers' head, it was loaded. Hey, you got to get a tackle. It was really no option for the San Diego Chargers. Gun was to their head. It was loaded. And the person holding the gun said, hey, you better draft an offensive lineman. And the Chargers said, look, the only lineman worth drafting at 11 that's left is DJ Fluker. Tackle out of Alabama. That's what they did. They didn't have a choice. They didn't have an option. They need offensive line help. If they don't get it, Phillip Rivers isn't running anywhere. We all know that. You got to get him some help. And DJ Fluker is going to provide you with that. Did I like the value here at 11? No. But was it a pick that needed to be made? Yes. Chargers made it. They get a tackle in DJ Fluker. So you get to the Raiders at 12, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, they traded back out of 3 to 12 with the Dolphins, and so their man is still there. Sharif Floyd is sitting right there. The guy that they were going to draft at 3 is still there at 12. Wow. What a great move by the Raiders, you're thinking to yourself. These guys really hit a home run. They trade back. They get a second-round pick, one that they did not possess before the draft started. So all of a sudden now they have a second-round pick via the Miami Dolphins. And they're still going to get the guy that they were going to draft 9 selections earlier. You can't do it any better than that. And then the Raiders select DJ Hayden, corner out of Houston with the 12th overall selection. And you're not baffled. But you're like, really? You taking him at 12? And so the dynamics of the draft kind of changed right there because Sharif Floyd wasn't supposed to slide past 12 at the Raiders. And all of a sudden now, the dynamic of the draft has changed. When did this come about? And we know Mike Mayock moved him up on his board, and so you knew that DJ Hayden was building some momentum. But he's coming off of a injury that was life-threatening. He almost lost his life. You don't know what you're getting from this guy. All you can go off of is the measurables and the tape. And the Raiders must have been wild with what they saw, but if you're the Raiders, don't you have too many holes to fill to draft a guy like DJ Hayden at 12? I mean, it'd be one thing if you didn't have any corners. But look, if you're the Raiders, okay, you tendered Phillip Adams, so he's going to be back. You went out and you signed Tracy Porter and Mike Jenkins. Now, granted, those were 2 one-year deals. It doesn't matter. For the 2013 season, you have corners at your disposal. Do you really need to spend the number 12 overall selection on a corner? Now, look, if it's your guy, it's your guy. I'm not telling you who to spend your pick on, but this one was sort of a head-scratcher because the Raiders have other pressing needs on their football team. To see them go after DJ Hayden at 12, and what we learned later on was they were within 2 minutes of selecting him at 3. You gotta love the Raiders. You gotta love the Raiders. But we move on. So we're at 13 now. Jets have this second pick. They picked this up in the Revis trade from the Bucks. So now the Jets are on the clock for the second time in the first round at 13. You look at the selection they make. Sheldon Richardson, defensive tackle out of Missouri. To me, this was the best defensive tackle in the draft. I love his explosion. I love his diversity. I love all the different dimensions that you get out of Sheldon Richardson in his game. I think that, to me, he's the most athletic of these defensive tackles. Now, look, Star Lotulelei isn't that far behind, but I like Sharif Floyd, don't get me wrong. But I think he's behind both Richardson and Star Lotulelei. And so I thought Richardson was the best in this draft at defensive tackle. I mean, what Missouri used to do with him was mind-boggling. I mean, they stood him up. They had this guy almost coming off the edges like a linebacker. He was moving around. You didn't know where he was coming from. He's explosive. I love Sheldon Richardson, and I thought that the Jets got a really good football player at 13. But again, what are you doing offensively to help this offense along? You spent 2 of the top 13 picks in the draft on defensive players. Defense wasn't your biggest Achilles heel last season. The offense was. And until you start addressing that, I feel like you're making lateral moves. And so, did I like the pick? Yes, I did. Because Sheldon Richardson is a really good football player. But did this pick help your football team immensely? No, because you still need help offensively. But look, I said to myself, look, the Jets still have a second, a third. They still have picks where they can go out and address the offense. They'll do so because John Idzik gets it and he'll figure it out. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So you look at the 14th selection, and Carolina is sitting there, and I told everyone that would listen to me, I had intel on this one, that the GM of the Carolina Panthers, Dave Gettleman, was going to select a defensive lineman. And I told Panthers fans all around that, look, you want the receiver. I know you want a receiver back. You're not getting one in the first round because Dave Gettleman is an old school GM that believes in building from within. He did exactly that. He drafted Star Lotulelei, which is a great value at 14. One of the best in this first round. Because this was a guy that was mentioned in the top 10 for a long time. Then I was thinking, no way he still gets to Carolina, even if he falls out of the top 10. Someone will take him. No way he gets to Carolina at 14. And voila, he gets to Carolina at 14. Great pick for the Panthers. Defensive tackle, Star Lotulelei out of Utah. He's going to make a very good pair down in the middle with DeJuan Edwards. That's going to be a very good group there in the middle of that Carolina Panthers defense. Look at 15 and the Saints. In a long time, I thought the Saints were going to get a guy like Barkevious Kiki Mingo, someone to get pressure off the edges on the quarterback. And by the time they got to 15, you could argue that the only thing left there off the edges was Jarvis Jones, worth taking at 15. I mean, Bjorn Warner was there, but if you're switching to a 3-4 defense, I don't know if Bjorn Warner fits what you're trying to do. We'll talk about that in a second. So you look at the Saints and you say, okay, what do the Saints need? Okay, if you're not going offensive tackle because Fluker's gone, that's not an option now at 15. There's not a tackle worth taking at 15. Unless you want to reach for Justin Pugh. A lot of people were banging the table for Pugh. I wasn't one of those that thought that Pugh should go in the top 20, but hey, we'll talk about that again in a second. You look at 15 with the Saints, and so what do you do? And you look, and they do have a glaring need. At 15, you look at the safety position, and you say, okay, Roman Harper, he's been there a while. He's limited in what he can do. I think he's a really good football player, but he's limited in what he brings to the table. I told you already, if you've been listening to me over the last 3 or 4 months, that I really, really like Malcolm Jenkins. I really like him in that secondary at safety. I think that they need more pieces around him to allow him to play his game, but I like Malcolm Jenkins a lot. So what did they do? They paired up Malcolm Jenkins with another young safety that is really good in Kenny Vaccaro, the safety out of Texas. And I think that's a great pick for the Saints. They need to get this defense better. They need to get this defense somewhere along the par of this offense. Look, this defense is never going to be as good as this offense is in New Orleans, but they need to be somewhere in that vicinity, somewhere in the neighborhood, okay? You can't have the offense scoring 31 points a game and the defense giving up 29. You're going to lose football games like that. If this defense can give up 23 a game and the offense is scoring 30, 31 points a game, the Saints are going to be a hard team to beat. And Kenny Vaccaro is going to help that back end of that defense out tremendously. Love the pick. Great value. Think that's a heck of a pick by the New Orleans Saints at 15. You look at 16. And here is the big whopper. Bills trade out of 8 with the St. Louis Rams. Rams go up to 8, get their man in Tavon Austin. Bills go back to 16, so now they're right in the middle of the draft. Smack dab in the middle at 16. And you look at the pick, and I honestly did not know what was coming here. I thought, okay, if they're going to take a quarterback, here's your chance. If they're going to take a quarterback, it's going to be the quarterback out of Syracuse, Ryan Nassib. And so, look, it all seemed like it made plenty of sense right here. Bills trade out of 8, where a quarterback isn't great value. They trade back to 16, acquire picks, and now they're in a spot where it makes sense to select a quarterback. If you're going to do so, here's your chance. And so, did anyone see this one coming? I didn't. Bills select quarterback E.J. Manuel out of Florida State. First quarterback taken in this draft. So without any further ado, I take you to the wedding. Dearly beloved Bill fans, we gather you here today to marry and join at the hip head coach Doug Marrone and quarterback E.J. Manuel. Do you have the contract? It's right here. Please repeat after me, Coach Marrone. I, Coach Marrone, promises to put the best running game in front of E.J. Manuel possible. I, Coach Marrone, look to put the best receiving core around E.J. Manuel humanly possible. I do all of these things so that I am not fired. E.J. Manuel, repeat after me. I, E.J. Manuel, promise to do my best to run the offense, to do everything in my power that is possible to not get my head coach fired. Now, Coach Marrone, do you take EJ in good plays and with bad plays? In good quarters and bad quarters. Good games, bad games. Good seasons and bad seasons. Till you get fired? You do? EJ Manuel, do you take this contract and sign it with the intent of taking care of your head coach in good plays and bad plays, in good quarters and bad quarters, in good games and bad games, and good seasons and bad seasons till you get him fired? You do? So by the power vested in me, I now announce you, head coach and quarterback. You guys may now sign your contracts. May the swirling, wintry winds of Orchard Park, New York be with you too. Good luck. And so that's how I feel about them. They're now joined at the hip are Doug Marrone and EJ Manuel. And Doug Marrone has already come out and said it hurt him to his core to have to pass on Ryan Nassib. But he said, look, it was in the best interest of the team. EJ Manuel is what we're looking for. And look, with those gusting, howling winds in late December and into those winter months, you got to have a guy that can cut through that wind. EJ Manuel is a big, physical, athletic kid that can do that, can put some mustard on that football, throws a nice, tight spiral that can cut through that wind. I don't think that many quarterbacks in this draft have the arm talent to do that. Ballsy pick by the Bills at 16, and now Doug Marrone and EJ Manuel are on the clock. If you're Doug Marrone, you're on the clock. The minute you made this selection, you are on the clock. Because if EJ Manuel does not pan out in this league, guess who is going to feel the wrath of that move? Yes, it's going to be Doug Marrone, who will be fired. He will have to fall on the sword for this one. If EJ Manuel pans out, Doug Marrone can be the head coach of the Buffalo Bills for the next decade. This is how big this move is for the Buffalo Bills. If it works, Marrone's a genius, so is Buddy Nix, and these two could be in Buffalo for the next decade. If this doesn't work, Marrone could be out in less than 4 years. So we're going to see what happens with this move, but that was a ballsy move by the Buffalo Bills. One that I actually like. I frankly think this was a great move by the Bills because although I like Nassib, I don't think he has what it takes to be successful in Buffalo. It takes a special type of quarterback to perform in a place like Buffalo. Not everyone can sign up for Buffalo and get it done. You've got to be a special breed. And I'm not saying that EJ Manuel is. We'll find out together. But I feel more comfortable putting EJ Manuel in that situation than probably any other quarterback in this draft. So I thought that was a great move by the Buffalo Bills. You move on to 17. And you look at the Steelers. Here's a team that they could have went in several different directions. But the one thing that I can count on is the Steelers not lying to me. Look, a lot of teams lied to me throughout this process and told me, hey, we're going to take this guy, or we want to do this, or we're looking at this guy. A lot of teams lied to me. There was a lot of storytelling going on throughout this whole process. The one team that didn't lie to me was the Pittsburgh Steelers, who basically said, hey, if Jarvis Jones is there at 17, guess what? We're taking Jarvis Jones. And you can feel comfortable saying that because guess what? A lot of teams weren't even considering picking Jarvis Jones in this draft because of the medical history, because of the weightlifting, because of a lot of things. The medical scared a lot of teams off. I'll say that first and foremost. The stenosis in the neck scared a lot of teams off. The Steelers were not fazed by that medical. They had cleared him. They felt like he was ready to go. And if they're at 17, they were going to take him. That's exactly what the Steelers did. Jarvis Jones, outside linebacker / defensive end out of Georgia, a Pittsburgh Steeler at 17. You look at 18, Cowboys. You're looking at this pick and you're saying, okay, what do the Cowboys do here? Because, okay, tackles are basically gone. Look, if you want to start going after the Justin Pughs and the Menelik Watsons of the world, hey, knock yourself out. I wouldn't advise you to do that, though. So that's off the board. Okay, you want to go to guard. Okay, guards are gone. Cooper, gone. Warmack, gone. Okay, so guards aren't really on the table here. So if you're the Cowboys, okay, what do? You go to defense. Okay, we need a safety. Hey, there's safeties aplenty if you want one, but the best one on the board is gone. And that's what you wanted at 18. You wanted Kenny Vaccaro at 18. You didn't want to settle for Reed or Cyprian or Elam or any one of those guys. You wanted the top safety in the draft. You wanted the creme de la creme. You wanted Vaccaro. Well, he's gone. So what's the next option? Cowboys simply didn't know, and they found a trading partner in the 49ers who were willing to come up to get their guy. So the Cowboys say, hey, why not trade back and we'll find value at the end of the first round. Good move by the Cowboys. You pick up picks. You get a solid player at the end of the first round. Why not? You couldn't get anything that you wanted at 18. Might as well move back to 30. So the Cowboys move out. the 49ers move in, and they need a safety. Deshaun Golston, now in Tampa Bay, one of your best safeties, if not your best safety, one of your best defenders, if not your best defender, gone. He's now in Tampa Bay. So what do? You go out and address this with the safety out of LSU, Eric Reed. I like the pick. I like the move. He's athletic. Probably the most athletic safety, probably the most athletically gifted safety in this draft. He's a guy with He's a guy that had high production in his junior season, not a lot in his senior year, but the tape doesn't lie. And if you like this guy, you know the upside is there. You coach him up. You get him to do the things that you want him to do. He's a good pick. I like the pick for the 49ers and where they're at and what they're trying to do. And they get good value at 18 in Eric Reed. Great pick by the 49ers. Had to come up to get him, but the 49ers had about 1,172 picks. So didn't matter to them. They do whatever they need to do to come up and get their guy, and they still got an abundance of picks left to which to choose from later on in the draft if they decide to do something else.
Draft Zone.